Welcome into Power Plays presented by Bet365. I'm Tim Kalinowski, joined by Michael Leboff and Nick Martin. The three of us make up Line Change Action Network's NHL betting podcast. And fellas, we're here to preview Saturday's Game 6 between the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers currently the favorites in the minus 170 range. The Rangers underdogs in the plus 140 range. Over-under sitting at 5.5, juiced to the under. All right, guys, one game here, a game that the Rangers need to win in order to extend this series. Obviously, Florida has turned things around pretty tremendously. I think after that Game 4, it was about as lopsided in terms of play of a tied series as we'd seen. They take care of business in Game 5. Now we're back in Sunrise for Game 6. Leboff, we'll start with if you wanted to pick a side in this game, I know you begrudgingly are interested in one. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean it's a fun conundrum to try to solve, which is that that you can feel pretty confident that the Panthers will play in terms of just controlling play to their status as a favorite, right? Minus 170. You can see a lot of different ways where Florida justifies those odds with their actual play at 5-on-5 and their process, and the fact that they'll probably have the ice tilted for most of the night. We saw it in games 3 and 4 in Florida, and then for the back half of Game 5 as well at the Garden. But at the same time, you're being asked to lay minus 170 on the Cats, and with the way the Rangers have been able to hang around despite having the puck in their own end and requiring Igor Shesterkin to stand on his head essentially every game, every minute of the series, they've hung around, right? Florida hasn't blown them out once. The Game 1 ended 3-0, but it was 1-0 with 4 minutes left. Rangers obviously win Game 2 in overtime. They win Game 3 in overtime against the run of play. And then Game 4, Florida once again was pretty dominant, and it went to overtime. Game 5, Florida ends up, I think, wrestling control of the game away from the Rangers as it went on, and it was 1-1 with under 10 minutes left in the third before Florida got ahead. So everything here points to this being a close game, almost no matter how it shakes out. And in that situation, I think you'd rather hold the plus 140 on the Rangers to the minus 170 on the Panthers. But I do understand why the money keeps coming in on Florida seemingly every game.
Yeah, it's quite the situation because it feels like, yes, we know we our eyeballs we know what Florida's been doing over the last couple games of this series, and on top of that, you just still feel like the Rangers have their ace going, right? Igor Shesterkin. It's like getting in baseball a team plus 140, but they got their ace, even though the other team's better from what we've seen. Nick, you had this is basically the same line that we saw in Game 4. You had the gumption to stick to your guns. You bet Florida in that Game 4. How do you feel about going back to the well here? And if not, I know you're probably looking at some totals here from what we've seen with these strong Game 6 and 7 trends.
Yeah, I've bet on the Panthers the last 2 games, and I'm not going to bet them again in Game 6. I think this is too wide, and I think similar to what Mike was saying, I don't think it's really possible we're going to see the Panthers control more of the play than they have over the last 3 games. I think if anything, we're going to see the Rangers bring probably what's been their best game in Sunrise here. So I feel like you probably aren't going to see the Rangers possibly play worse defensively than they already have. And still kind of white knuckling it, getting that Panthers ticket home in Game 4. I felt a lot more comfortable in Game 5 based on the idea that I continue to think home ice means next to nothing, which I also think is relevant in this game because now you're talking about Panthers minus 170 again. And at this point, it just feels like no matter what they do, the Rangers are going to hang around. And I also think there's a little room for growth from the Rangers at even strength.
There has to be.
I mean, you'd think to some extent at least, right? But I think ultimately my bets, I like the under 5.5. I like the under first period under 1.5. I think that this is just going to continue to trend towards lower scoring games. We've seen that really consistently in all the series. This postseason totals from games 5 to 7 on betting the under has been really profitable. And I think this is another good spot to target that trend. I think that all of Florida's excellent two-way forwards and their strong top 4 defensive core is going to continue to suppress the Rangers' chances at even strength. I really think part of the struggles of Panarin and Mika and Kreider and all these guys just has to do with the fact that they're trying to generate versus Barkov, Kachuk, Reinhart, all these really reliable two-way forwards that can control play in all three zones. But at the other end of the ice, the Rangers really just aren't getting taxed for their defensive breakdowns at all. Like for as much as the Panthers are generating, they're still having a hard time getting anything by Shesterkin. And, typically, like we've been saying, things get lower and lower event as we get further into series. There's even less chance that we'll see even the amount of power plays we have seen in this series. The Panthers have done pretty good on the kill and done a pretty good job being disciplined as well. So that always works towards lower totals. I think last game was pretty obvious to say that even 3-2 was the higher running of the scoreline. So yeah, I think there's value backing the unders in a lower event game in this matchup.
Well done. We'll close it out with our best bets. Here you have, if you have to pick one for this game, what would you bet? And I'll share with you a couple trends as we lead into that. But first, I have to tell you that Power Plays is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365, 21 plus only, or 18 plus in Kentucky, and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and now North Carolina. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. T's and C's and restrictions apply. Okay, from the top, Michael Leboff, I'll let you know that visitors, last two postseasons, 90 and 75, 54.5%. $100 better would be up $2,400. You like the visitor?
Yeah, if I had to choose a side, I think that the money line on the Rangers is the better bet. I also like Barkov at 23-1 to score twice. I think he's like knocking on the door of a huge game. So I think that's a good price, but I'll make my best bet the Rangers money line.
Well done. And honorable mention for Leboff, probably playing the 0-0 in the first period too there,
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Goes without saying. All right, Nick Martin, number 2 overall.
All right, I'm pretty split, but I'm going to go with the first period under 1.5. I think is my preferred look. I always feel like in these these huge elimination games, teams are really try to err on the side of being conservative. I know you've been around some big games, state champion yourself, and I think that is kind of just a hockey-wide mentality that in general players prefer to be conservative and try not to be the one who kind of gets exposed early on, just make simple plays and not get caught. So I always feel like, that tends to lend itself in these tighter moments to low event games unless you see some fluky ones. So I think that's a good way to bet this one. I also don't hate the no goal first 10 minutes is even money. There's actually better than even money, plus 110. So I think that's also worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, Nick, I'll tell you why you like that, because this Stanley Cup playoffs, we've seen 10 game 6s or game 7s. 9 of them, first period has gone under. We've seen 6 scoreless ones, and 9 went scoreless in the first 10. So I totally see where you're going there. I like that, especially this play. It seems like it's been tighter than ever. I will close this out with, I like the under 5.5. Oh, you guys pretty much mentioned it. We expect low event, low scoring. You got Shesterkin. You got a Florida team that knows how to muck it up. It's hard to get through them in the neutral zone, basically everywhere on the ice. So I like the under. Leboff, if you had to pick, you'd be on the Rangers. He's like going to do that Barkov as well. First period, no goals. Nick, under first period, all sorts of unders. That's us from Line Change. We'll see you, or Power Plays. We'll see you back on Line Change next week. Everybody enjoy your weekend and enjoy the games.